this is Catherine O'Connell and welcome to Lawyer on Air. If you are looking for inspirational stories about women in law, then this is the podcast for you. Join me and my lawyer ladies as we enjoy a glass of wine after a hard day at work and talk about the world of women in law. It's my passion to share stories of amazing legal ladies who are working as in-house legal counsel, who have law firm roles, who are leading on boards, and who are doing law differently. From time to time, I will also invite special guests on the show to share their insights on legal recruiting and tips for getting hired as a successful lawyer in Japan. I hope you will enjoy getting to know these amazing women who I am so proud to share a profession with. I'm glad you're here and I hope you enjoy the show. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Lawyer on Air podcast. In this episode, I share with you another diverse story of a women lawyer working in Japan. I'm Catherine, the host of the show, and I'm a lawyer based in Tokyo for 20 years, and I love helping unlock the wisdom of the stories that women lawyers never tell. What I've learned from my career in law so far is to think about what you can do for others and not about what that person can do for you. What's important to do is your very best at the time for others. Be helpful, be faithful, and be appreciative of what you receive. Those are the words of my guest, Sawako Ohgi, who is the General Manager in the Strategic Legal Unit of the legal group at JERA. She's an M&A lawyer in both domestic and international work and qualified as a New York lawyer in 2007. JERA is probably quite familiar to my listening fans, as we've previously had a couple of guests on the show who worked together in the legal team with Sawako, and we'll put the links to their episodes in the show notes as well. But as you all know, this podcast is not about the places people work. The focus is on the career paths of the people to get to those places, and we will be sharing that again with you today. Sawako has previous experience at Tokyo Electric Power Company, and she broke a glass ceiling by being the person to first spend time overseas remote working from the UK. Well, you can check out Sawako's full bio in the show notes. On this episode, she shares with us how she had no idea she would become an in-house legal practitioner, but you'll hear that she boldly raised her hand to go and study law in the US. And as they say, the rest is history, as she got engrossed in in-house legal life. She also shares her view that how becoming a devoted in-house legal counsel is not the wrong way compared to taking a path in private practice. What I love about Sawako is she is a shining example that you can excel in niching down into an in-house legal career without any private practice experience. And so I hope this story from Sawako is inspirational for you if you are thinking about skipping private practice experience to devote your career from the start as being an in-house legal counsel. She also shares her tips about being a great in-house lawyer, a leader of a team, and doing all that while balancing life as a mother. These tips are so excellent for young lawyers. She's also super vulnerable and gives over a lot of tips that will help you along your way. Balance is not a static thing, but it can be more balance in your career at one point and more in life in another, but it all evens out. And finally, Sawako shares her favorite underrated place to visit in Japan, her motto that she lives by, as well as a truly fun fact you would not know about her. Let's get into it. Hello, Sawako, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. If we're in person and we were going to be meeting up in person, where would we be? Do you have like a favorite wine bar or restaurant that you love to go to, Sawako? And what would be your choice of beverage from the menu?
Thank you. There's a friendly French restaurant near where I live, and the dishes and wines are excellent, but I'm not a strong drinker. So with you today, and it's quite humid, I would like to have like cold iced tea with
Iced tea. What kind of tea? Because there's so many varieties, right? Like jasmine tea or udon tea. Which one do you like?
I like Darjeeling.
Darjeeling.
Yeah.
I always find Darjeeling a little, what's the word, strong. So I'd probably
Mm,
need it quite weak for me, but
I
I
see.
like Earl Grey or
Right.
yeah.
I find Earl Grey a little bit strong for me.
Oh, is that right?
So,
Huh. How
I
interesting.
like something that goes with milk.
Ah, yes. Yeah, and Earl Grey is I used to drink it with milk, but actually it doesn't go with milk. So
Right, right.
oh, wonderful. Well, thank you for that. I mean, for me, I would probably have very little ice. Some people don't know about me, but I don't like cold drinks.
Really?
Yeah, like cold juice or cold cola, or if it's even cold water, I prefer slightly warmer.
Mm, I see. But the warm drinks are good for your health, I think.
That's why, yeah, I just have not been able to ever have a cold drink.
Mm,
So, yeah. Well, anyway, I'd still join you for the French restaurant and some iced tea. Sounds lovely.
thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's go back to your early days, perhaps when you were a child or a young adult. Do you
Yep.
remember what you were dreaming about or thinking about then for your future?
Yes, I lived abroad when I was a child. I lived in Pakistan, Malaysia, and Singapore, and that
Mm.
was because of my father's job. And if I think about it now, I was looking at what my father was doing. So, like he did, I do wanted to contribute overseas when I grew up. So something that I could
Ah,
work for overseas was my dream.
what an amazing experience. How long were you in those countries for? From what age to what age?
In Pakistan from 3 to 7
Mm.
and and Malaysia 11 to 12 and Singapore 12 to 15.
Wow, that's
Altogether
really,
about
yeah,
8 years.
eight
Yes.
years. So that's quite a
Yeah.
different upbringing compared to Japan.
Right. Yes.
Did you also do like the Japanese school in those countries as well?
Because I was quite small when I was in Pakistan, there was a Japanese school, but I went to American kindergarten. And when
Oh,
I turned 7, I went to the Japanese school for 1 year, but then we had to go back to Japan. So we came back, and then I entered a Japanese public school from
right.
middle of the first grade.
Right. It must have been really quite dramatic, though, coming back to Japan after the time overseas.
Yes, yes. My friends in school couldn't see me as a Japanese.
Really?
So now it's not so unusual, but I think at that time it might have been unusual for my friends. So I
Huh.
was asked, "Are you Pakistanis?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm Japanese."
Really? But you were obviously you are Japanese, but did they just
Yes.
assume that or just feel that you must have been turned into maybe Pakistani because you were overseas for so long?
Mm, just 4 years.
Yeah, it's not long, really, is it?
Right,
But
right. No, no.
maybe it's a little bit of not jealousy or envy, but maybe it's also that or not understanding someone who
Mm,
could have lived overseas for their childhood. Maybe there's just
right.
a lack of understanding there.
Maybe yes.
How did you cope with that? What did you do you remember what you said to them or how you felt at that time?
No, I think at the beginning of when I first came back, it was quite difficult because I came back in the middle of the grade, and the friends around me have already made the friends, but eventually it was okay. I had support from teachers and the close friends, so it's not a bad memory at all for me.
No. Okay, that's really good. And I guess too, this has really impacted you throughout your life, having had your original days, right? The early days in another
Yeah,
country.
I
Yeah.
think so.
And it sounds like your dad, obviously, from seeing him over there, he was really one of the influences or a guide for you, perhaps on your way.
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
So when did lawyer come up for you as a kind of thinking about it? I know you went to the US
Yes, I
at one
did.
point there. So tell me about what happened after you left school and then before you were going to the US. What about that period of time? And if you're thinking about lawyer then, or is lawyer not till a bit later?
It's a little bit long story, but try to
Okay.
make
Yeah,
it
please,
short.
please
But
tell us.
so lawyer as my career came up to me when I was around age 27 or 28. When I lived in Asian countries when I was small, I experienced many electricity outages there. So, whenever there are thunderstorms, and there were some thunderstorms often because of the tropical nature of the regions, the lights just go off and eventually we will get them back. But I thought electricity outages are a normal day of your life. But when I came back to Japan, I realized how stable electricity supply is here in Japan. So I joined Tokyo Electric Power Company after graduating university to contribute to the stabilization of electricity supply in the world. But as you may know, as many of the new joiners in Japanese companies, at the beginning of the career, new joiners would rotate 2 or 3 divisions to learn broadly about the company's business. So I have at first rotated as at the customer call center and PR section for the first 5 years. But I always wanted to do overseas work. So in my 6th year of my career, I was transferred to the International Affairs Division. And because I studied law in university, I was assigned as a legal staff there. But I faced at that time a huge challenge of not knowing anything about doing M&A transactions and building power plants backed by a project finance scheme. And what people are talking about all sounded really alien, like what CPs and what reps and warranties, force majeure kind of wording was
Yes.
so unfamiliar with me. So at the end, I raised my hand to study at law school in the US because the company had like a sponsorship program to support the employees to go study abroad. And so I was fortunate to be able to study at a US law school. And after doing LLM programs, and I took the New York bar exam, I returned to the company. So this is how I became an in-house lawyer.
Wow, there's so much in there, right? This
Yeah.
this direct connection between you, where you are now and where you joined in your first career to
Yeah.
TEPCO. You just had that connection between what you experienced in those countries overseas with the
Mm,
outages of the electricity. That
yeah.
just makes so much sense because I've never known this story before. So to
Mm,
hear that really makes me understand why you're where you are and why it's really important for you.
yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah, and I get the idea as well of struggling with not knowing those things, the M&A stuff. And even now, honestly,
Right. Yeah.
power
It was.
plants, I don't know how they start. So that kind of work, how you do that in your team, I have no idea how that works. Maybe one day you can teach us all. But wow, I'm also very surprised that Tokyo Electric had an overseas
Mm.
program. Why did they have an overseas program?
I think it's not unique to TEPCO. It's not just for overseas program, but they have a domestic program for employees to further learn and gain their skills and come back. So the company I work for now also has the sponsorship program. So my colleague are also now studying law in Japanese law school. So I think it's a
Mm.
very good opportunities for employees to further gain skills and learn new things after joining the
Wow.
company.
Right,
But
yes.
the hard thing, or it might not be hard, but you have to sign an undertaking that I will
Right.
not quit the company.
For a certain period of time, right?
Right,
Not
right,
forever
that's
and
right.
ever.
Not
Yeah.
forever. Yes, that's right.
Because I think it's interesting for people who are listening, maybe they would never think that some of the domestic companies, organizations in Japan do have these programs. Perhaps they think it's only the global or gaishike, right? The global companies that are based in
Right.
Japan, or maybe larger companies, really, really large companies that seem to be doing work with overseas. Maybe
Mm,
we think that that's the only company that has these kinds of programs, but you've just opened up another door to the
Mm.
possibility for people who are working domestically in a company like, say, for example, Tokyo Electric, to be able to go overseas as well.
Yes, yes. I think it's not in public, this kind
Yeah,
of information. Maybe anyone can ask if whether that company has any supporting program for
right.
employees.
And even ask about it at the interview or pre-interview with the
Right.
recruiter. Yeah,
Yes.
if you don't ask, you never find out information. That's a really good point. And so you went to, I believe it was in Pennsylvania where you studied law in the States.
Yes.
How is that though, compared to, say, Japan and also your previous history with those three Asian countries? What was it like?
So I never lived in the US, and
Oh, I see.
yes, only I had an experience of living in Asian countries, and we, of course have been to for the business trips and sightseeing, but first
Right.
time to live
I see what
in
you mean.
the
First time to
US.
live over there. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and the good thing, everything was so exciting, and people are friendly. Unlike Japan, and I just you are in the same elevator with somebody I don't know, they start speaking to me. That doesn't usually happen in Japan.
No, it doesn't happen in Japan.
Right, so it was a very good experience. But whenever I had a small problem in my apartment, like Wi-Fi networking or some air conditioning thing, I found it much easier to get support if I was in Japan. So that was a
Ah,
huge difference I found, that
right.
how helpful Japanese people are. In Japan, everything it's on time. The service provider comes just in time to help me and fix the things.
Yep.
But when in the US, I wait, uh, but then they don't come, and I call them, but then it gets transferred to like outsourcing.
You are so
Outsource.
right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to wait for like, or I have to try like three times, four times until I get the service right. So
Right.
that was a difficulty for foreigners to get used to it.
Absolutely. We are so utterly blessed in Japan and sometimes forget about it. And I think about those guys who come and the women who come to deliver packages to us and they'll re-deliver and tell us they're going to be there
Mm,
between 2 and 4 and they come between 2 and
right, right.
4.
That I thought that's the usual, but now I find how amazing.
Yeah, you're right. And I remember too when I had ordered a whole lot of IKEA equipment. And
Mm,
one of the things I made, put together myself, was a table, but it was quite heavy. And so when
mm,
it came to trying to stand it up, I couldn't stand it up
mm,
myself. And so
mm,
one of the one of the delivery guys came to the door and I said, "Look, could I borrow you to help me pull the table up?" And he came
mm.
inside and helped me do that. I don't know how many
Ah,
places would do that. Maybe they would do it overseas, but I was so impressed that someone would help me like that.
I think I had an experience of just having the heavy things left in front of my door and then just returned.
Right. Wow. I'm just so excited about that because you just had a lovely, lovely time in the States, came back after this program. And how long did you stay then with TEPCO? Because you rejoined them when you came back.
Yes, so after 2 years of studying, came back. That was in 2007. That's another I faced another challenge when I came back from the US, because I gained knowledge, and I also was able to pass the bar exam. So that as career wise, I thought that the timing was perfect for me to further gain experience,
Mm.
and do M&As, and be able to go overseas. But because I was at that when I came back, my age was about 32, 3, and I've been married for 7 years already. So we thought about having a child, but we faced a challenge there, and I had a like a conflict in myself of pursuing my career and also wanting to have a family.
It's always a tough thing that comes up, right? This challenge about what to do can both be done or when the timing happens. And there's so many women who've been on the podcast here who have talked about these things, but perhaps no one quite as frankly as you, Sawako,
Mm.
actually saying it. And so what actually then happened to make things a little bit smoother for you to work through that challenge of balancing working time and also thinking about having a family?
Yes, so it was a huge challenge and a kind of a conflict inside myself. But we decided to go through fertility treatments. But as many everybody knows, fertility treatments are very tough, especially for
Mm.
women, physically and mentally. And I understand some women choose to quit career for treatments, but I decided to seek support from my bosses and my colleagues. And at that time, all the bosses and colleagues are men in my workplace. But because I needed to be excused quite often from my work for treatments, I just decided that I'd be honest and faithful with them. But at the end, I was very lucky to receive deep understanding and support from my bosses and colleagues. And but then I was advised from my boss to refrain from going to business trips, which he was right. But it was always a huge conflict within me. One side of me wanting to pursue my career, and one side wanting to have kids. And the treatment went for 3 years. But finally, we were blessed, and that was when I was age 35.
Wow, that's such an impactful story, Sawako. You actually gave me goosebumps, to a mother to hear that what's coming up is not only that you continued for 3 years, but that you had that support from your bosses and colleagues. And
Yes.
let's just give a shout out to men who often get, I suppose, labeled as not being very supportive. And here you are in this.
Mm,
I know it's a really traditional company,
yes.
yet they were so supportive of you. I mean, that must have been just a really big change for you to have that support while you were doing
Mm,
this. Yeah.
mm. It was kind of a little bit of embarrassing to tell them honestly about my personal issue, but I thought I knew I regretted later if I don't speak to them
Yes.
now. So I did, but at the end, it was such a good experience for me.
So, right, for someone else or people who are listening who might be in similar situation, what do you think about that? Would you say that to them to just be open and honest, and it's better to do that than to keep it quiet and to receive the support for something that you really want to do? I don't want
Mm.
to give you the words to say, but what would you say to someone who's maybe listening to you and struggling with the similar kind of challenge?
I would encourage everyone to speak to be faithful and honest with your issue. And what I learned was that do not expect what others would do for you. But while you need to be absent or take leave from work, do your best. And if you show them you are doing best while you have to take leave and be absent from work from time to time, when you can just do what you can do, and you will get the understanding from others eventually.
Right. So when you're doing your work, do the best you can. And I guess if they are off work or they're overloaded or need some help, to also be very helpful to them,
Mm,
understanding it's both ways to be supportive.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. So that's a really good experience. Thank you so much for sharing that. And were there some other highs and lows during those first years
Yeah.
when you were, you'd gone to the States, you'd become a lawyer, right? And there you are
Yeah.
trying to do these M&A and other projects. How did that go? Was it different to before, when before you'd studied the law?
Yes, so I knew the words
Right.
after after going to the school, and then I also took the business courses, M&A courses. So I really was ready to 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 work. But
Right.
as you also know, there was another challenge of going through the treatments, and then I was really fortunate. But in 2011 March, the huge
Yes.
earthquake hit
Yes.
Japan,
It sure
and
did.
I was pregnant at that time,
Oh,
and TEPCO faced with huge responsibilities and liabilities. So I wasn't sure what would happen to the company I worked for and what would happen to my colleagues and my bosses. But the due date was approaching. So I took maternity leave in 2011.
mm,
And at the end, I took maternity leave and childcare for a total of 3 years. That's also allowed in a Japanese companies, like up to many years. You can take childcare leave. So I took for 3 years and was blessed with two girls while I was on leave. And I came back to TEPCO in 2014, age 39. I was really happy to find many of my bosses and colleagues still working at TEPCO. And then I was assigned to a new responsibility of transferring overseas power assets from TEPCO to JERA and do due diligence for Chubu assets. So that was my, as I think about it, might be the most challenging work to do at that time.
yes, I think so. Not only the challenging work of raising two girls during what was such a difficult time with 2011 and all the things that happened then, but then coming back and having that
Mm,
huge, huge assignment of transferring over to JERA where you are working now,
yes.
and doing the due diligence on Trubu, because I expect everybody was super sensitive then for those
Mm.
kinds of projects. And I'm not sure how you managed it, but can you remember how long that took you and what was the things that came up as you were doing that work? You don't have to tell me all the big details, but just those challenges as you were trying to also manage your household.
Yeah, so I think it went on for about a little bit over a year. And I had a team because I was responsible for transferring not and supporting the transfer, not just from legal perspective, but I had to oversee like finance, tax, technical
Oh, I
issues,
see.
commercial
Yeah.
issues as well. But
Mm.
I only have confidence in legal area. So again, I had a huge support from my colleagues who handled finance and tax and technical commercial issues. And so I had a really good team to work for. But for the legal side, we were working 24 hours, but then I had to leave at around 6 p.m. every day to pick up my girls from hoikuen. So at
Mm.
that time, I hand over to my junior colleague who's really excellent, and he worked until around midnight, and then I returned to work from my home around midnight to take it over
Really?
him or
Really?
woke up in the early morning to do
Goodness.
so in that way we helped each other to continue going through the process.
That's tough. I don't know how you did that. I really don't know how you did that. Wow. And what was it like though, overseeing that project from legal side and risk side and managing those teams? It must have really taught you so many lessons about leadership and about teamwork.
I had like a kind of a general manager role of transferring the asset. I also had to make a constant report to our management,
Mm.
and I had to not just report only on legal aspect. So I really needed to understand areas of the business, and I realized how important that to be able to just speak about one project. It's not just about legal, but you really need to know so many things around it, the business, the numbers, and the tax issues and technical issues and human resources and all sort of things that I needed to report. So I learned a lot at that time too.
Yeah, it's kind of holistic, isn't it? You have to manage the whole scope of all these different things happening. And I think oftentimes it becomes the legal department who is the one to look after those things. I think we seem to be assigned those projects where we kind of, well, project manager, you become a project manager. And then how long did that take to complete? Because I believe after a period of time, you were seconded then from Tokyo Electric over to JERA.
So, well, there were few assets which were transferred from TEPCO Chubu to JERA, and I was just responsible for the power side, overseas power side. But in 2016, so a few of the businesses were transferred, and so with the asset, I also was seconded to JERA, and I was seconded to JERA legal division or legal.
Mm.
It was still a very small team at that time. So in year 2016, and that was also a very exciting experience of building the team from the beginning and supporting the expansion of the business at JERA. But again, another career challenge came to me in 2018. So after joining for 2 years, another challenge came to me because of my life partner, my husband, who worked for a different industry company, was assigned with a new role to work in the UK. And I was still on secondment from TEPCO to JERA. And at that time, both of TEPCO and JERA's policies did not allow teleworking in overseas. Then it was before COVID. So faced with another career challenge.
Okay, so they both didn't allow teleworking, or what we might call, I think teleworking is quite a Japanese way, isn't, of saying
I see.
maybe remote working. Yeah, we
Right,
call it.
right.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
so used
Remote
to the
working.
word. I'm so used to it. So remote working. So hang on a minute. Are you going to tell me that you burst through some ceiling of making it possible to go overseas?
Yes, at the end. So when I went to the UK, there was no policies. No one was other than myself was allowed at that time. Then, but now, at least in JERA,
Right,
they have a new policy.
right.
If your partner gets like a transfer notice
Yes.
abroad, you can also go with your partner, your family, and do remote working from there. So now there's a rule that allows you, so that I'm happy for it. But at
Well,
that
you were the
time,
first one. You were the first one.
yes, yes,
Let's
but
just say that you carved out the way, you made the path possible.
mm,
How did you do that? Did you just say, I've got to go? Did you just change a rule? How did you make that work?
again, it's not me, it's my the huge support that I received, which I'm so appreciative of my bosses and the colleagues around me. At that time, there was a choice that I was told to take leave from the work, 1 to 2 years leave, that TEPCO's policy. But again, the TEPCO's policy says if you are an employee, you cannot work for another company while you're on leave. So I didn't want to have like a gap in my career, but
Hmm.
I really wanted to go with my husband to support him. And I thought it might be a good opportunity for my girls as well. So I thought of quitting. And again, I really had to be honest with my bosses and the management, and they were really supportive and understanding. And at the end, JERA allowed to do remote working from overseas.
Mm.
So
Really great news.
yeah,
So you managed to then you were still seconded then at that point,
yes,
right? So you were doing the secondment work from TEPCO to JERA while you were remotely working from the UK.
yeah,
Wow. And this is pre-pandemic.
right.
Did that impact you significantly then? Because it must have changed your approach to working style. And maybe it worked out that you were, able to support your colleagues back in Japan when they were sleeping, you were working because of the difference in the time zone, maybe. And did it also help you for when the pandemic finally arrived? You had some experience of working remotely.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Mm.
smooth for me.
It would have been. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Tell us a bit more about that time then when you were there. Was 2018 to 21?
that's right. I wanted to prove that it can be done. The reason for the not having the policy to allow this was I was told that it's quite impossible to manage the team from overseas with time difference and physically being remote. But so I wanted to prove that it's possible. So I tried my best to wake up at around 4 a.m. every day in UK just to have 2 hours of overlapping time with my team
Oh.
in Japan. So woke up from 4 a.m. and 5 to 7, I had a conference call, like not at that time, there was no online calls. So I just joined by, how do you call it?
What is it? I'm trying to think. What was it called? Just a telephone
Right. Yeah. Telephone. Yeah.
discussion with the speakerphone on the desk
Right.
kind of
Yes,
thing. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
And then and everybody else, so there was no like video, which was
No video. Right.
right.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
quite difficult. But then I tried, and then from 7 to 9, I took care of our kids to take them to the school and do the dropping, and then came back. And from 9 to 3 p.m. I was working, and then I was able to, yes, pick up my colleagues' work when they leave the office. And 3 p.m. I went to pick up the girls and help them do their homework, because of they also had a language issue in the UK at the beginning. And when after they went to bed, I came back to work and tried to go to bed around midnight, because I had another call 4 hours later. so
Ooh.
so it was quite a challenging time for
Right.
me.
Oh, yeah, very challenging. It sounds like you are superbly organized. And I'm sort of thinking you must have some tips for managing your calendar. How did you do that? Did you let people know that, right, I'm going to be up between these hours. I'm going to be up
Yeah,
between this hour, and I'm going to be able to be available for any calls. So let's make all our meetings about certain projects at that time. And then
right, right.
did you let them know? Is that how you organized it? Did you do
Yeah.
something else? Are there other tips that you would say to people maybe who are doing this kind of thing or thinking about it? How do I go and
Mm.
work remotely in the UK or US with children and try and manage my calendar as well as the time difference? Have you got some 2 or 3 hints or tips that you might give away?
Yes, we tried many things, but at the end, as you said, the easiest was to make it open in my calendar when I was available. So from there, 5 to 7, and from 9 to 3, I made it clear that I'm available then, but otherwise, I had to block. But by doing so, I think it worked at the end. And there are many divisions and employees in the company who do not know that I'm in overseas working, but looking at the calendar, they would understand where to have a meeting with me. So
Right.
I think it's very important. It's now, I think the world has changed, and many of us are allowed to do remote working abroad. But the tip is that make it very clear when you are available. Be open and be faithful. I mean, if you start not letting everybody else know, it would find it very difficult how to reach you.
Yes, exactly. I suppose too, when it's no video, you could have your pajamas on while you were working if you wanted to. No one would know, but now it's very difficult to do that. Wow. Okay, so what was some of the I guess you would have had some challenges though during that time, and probably some really good highlights that happened for you during that period of time in the UK. And I know it crosses over too with the pandemic, so maybe that was quite challenging, especially being outside of Japan.
Yeah, highlights. Well, so during 3 years, half of my time was under lockdown. But the first 1.5 years in the UK, we didn't live in London. The workplace was a little bit further northwestern side, but I had opportunities to go travel to London to meet law firms in London, like working business partners there, and meeting like legal department of the companies there, and also had opportunities of supporting US business because the UK was a really convenient, I'm not sure whether the convenient is the right wording, but it's in the right middle of the time zone of the world. It was closer for me to support the US business of JERA at the beginning than supporting from Japan. So, but timing wise, it made my days more kind of challenging to manage. But in the afternoon of UK, the US started to resume, and I was able to also give support to the legal side of the US business. So that was really exciting. And now and at that time, so there was no legal person on the ground for the US. But since then, the team, we also supported recruiting the US general counsel there. But now the team has grown. So, but at the beginning, I think was quite lucky to be in the UK to be able to support US
Yes.
as
And
well.
also getting them started on all kinds of things would be quite interesting and quite
Mm.
entrepreneurial to be able to bring out that part of you as well. So from those times, you returned back to Japan in a crazy period as well. What's happened after that? Did you transfer over to JERA after that?
Yes, so not just me, but
Mm.
all these seconded personnel from either TEPCO or Chubu had an opportunity to choose becoming JERA employee or going back to the shareholder company. So I chose to become a JERA employee. That was in 2021, I think.
Right. How was that? What made you choose JERA? Can I ask you that?
Yes, of course. Well, the simple answer was that Jera had shown more understanding of my career
Yes.
pursuit at that time because of the policies and no precedent case, which is understandable in TEPCO side.
Mm.
They couldn't allow for me working overseas, but Jera did show understanding and supported me to work from UK smoothly. Yes,
Yeah, so that
that
would
was
have
the
been
mm,
a big positive. So from those days to now, it's around 2 years, isn't it?
yes.
Yes. So what's been the journey? What kinds of things are you helping JERA with now, like contracts or disputes, or what sort of things are you doing?
While I was in UK, I was promoted to become a general manager in the current unit. It's called Strategic Legal Unit.
Mm.
So now I oversee all the legal work at
Mm.
JERA. It's contract reviews and support to the disputes regulatory area and yes, legal consultations. And now my role is to manage all the matters, projects, and the team, and support the individual members and teams and growth.
That's really
That's
exciting.
yes.
Yeah. What do you like the most? Can I call out one thing that you would like to say that you really love about your work?
I love to see my team's growth. When I joined, I started with 5 members, and now we are about 30 of us with 4 units, and I'm just responsible for one of the units. But with that unit, it's also have expanded from few members to now 16 of us, and we are discussing every day to how to share our knowledge and reach out to each other and what to do to further develop our skills and experience. So those kind of discussions and trials of whatever we can try for our further growth it's very I think rewarding to me.
Yes, it would be. And just while we're here, I think it's very interesting if anyone's listening and realizing that you have been in-house basically all your career, right? You've worked
Yes.
within companies and not taken a private practice pathway So I think that's really, really interesting that you can come this far, right, and be in a big group. 30 people's a big group with 4 units, and you're managing the unit and doing the strategic legal work, and that you can do all of this without the need to have to think about private practice work.
Mm.
So for you, was that a decision that you made or just happened that you could turn out to be a brilliant, in-house lawyer and do this kind of work? What
Not sure
happened? Yeah.
I'm brilliant, but I think I started my legal career the other way round.
Mm, mm.
It wasn't a wrong way because I was able to start from understanding the business, and then I became to wanting to learn the legal to support the business behind it. So understanding the business, so you would know clearly what you want to further learn to support the business area that you want to pursue. And when I went to the US, I was able to be selective. I think that was a huge benefit for me because otherwise I think I would have no idea. And maybe I try to learn as much as possible. But you would have like a specialized area if you would know what you want to learn.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's almost like, if you think of a toolbox, you might have a hammer in the toolbox or a screwdriver, and let's just say that being a hammer is a private practice lawyer and being
Mm.
a screwdriver is in-house legal. You couldn't use the hammer to bang in to screw in the screw into the wall, right? And you couldn't
Mm.
use the screwdriver probably so well to do the hammering of a really heavy object into the wall. And I think that's sort of what it seems like a little bit to me, is that they've both got brilliant usages and capabilities and skills, the hammer and the screwdriver. And you've concentrated on being that one tool
Mm.
and doing it well, and helping others become other screwdrivers around you, if I use that analogy, right? It's not one or the other, it's
Right.
together in the toolbox and just doing different things.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And different people doing different things make up a team to do a really good
exactly.
job.
Exactly. So what is the most important thing that you've learned from your career in law so far?
I think what the most important thing that I have learned from my career so far is think what you can do for others and act and not what others can do for you. So do not expect what others to do things for you, but I always try to do whatever I can do best at that timing. So if you continue to be honest and faithful and being helpful, when times you need others' help, you will receive them, and also always be appreciative of what you're receiving is what I think I learned through my career.
I love that. You've said faithful quite a few
Yes.
times. Yeah, faithful seems like a very important value to you. What what,
Mm.
what does faithful mean?
To me, I'm always being honest. I will not say yes if I cannot do it. I don't say I know if I don't know. So that kind of honesty or
Mm,
faithfulness, if I
mm.
not sure if I'm
No, I
using
think
the
it's
right
a it's
word.
such a lovely word, and it's like it's integrity, but it's a more frank way of saying it. I think integrity can be such a big word that we don't really know
Mm,
if everybody can be that kind of person. It sounds almost sometimes distant, but faithful
mm,
feels very close to human beings. It feels really real to me that, faithful is
mm,
a promise, right? A promise to yourself to be honest, and a promise to others that you won't say to them, yes, I'll do it, and you don't, and let them down and let yourself down, or say, yeah, I know that, and I don't know that. So it's a really very, very grounded, raw value. I really, really love that. And you've said it quite a few times. So I just wanted to get some more insight into that from you. Wonderful. And appreciating what you receive. What does that mean? How do we show appreciation as the leader of a team?
the simplest is convey thank you for everything they do for the work. It's not for me. It's for the people every day trying so hard to make the work and support the business. And I always tell them that how grateful I am. But it's not just me. Everybody in my team is always, I think, thanking each other. But that would, I hope, make the team better. I think it would make us easier to reach out to each other whenever we need help. But
Exactly.
and
Yes.
always being modest. You cannot do everything by yourself. You always need some other colleagues help to
Yes.
realize the work. So yes, convey
Yeah.
your gratefulness whenever you can.
Right. Thank you. Such an underrated word, isn't it? Or two words, but I think that's right. And I've found also when you say thank you for doing XYZ, it really made a difference to me because, giving
Mm,
them so they understand what the thank you means.
mm, mm, mm,
Right. It really helped when you delivered that piece of paper up to the other person and got the system going because then I couldn't do it. I was so busy, but you really helped me. Even a small thing like that.
mm, mm.
Yeah, I love that. All right. We're getting closer to the finish of our conversation, but is there anything else that we haven't covered, Sawako, that you wanted to speak about as your work and being a lawyer or being a mother who's a lawyer?
I think what I learned from being a mother and trying to pursue the career at the same time, I just want to say that it's balance. It's always the balance. Balance your work and your life. There's the life stages are different and career stages are different for each individual. And when there's time that you need to put more more of your balance into work or into your personal life. But I think it's not always about the work. You can take a step aside and take your time to devote your time in what you want to achieve in your personal life. So it's always I think it's a good finding a good balance. And to be an in-house counsel, I would advise again, it might be the things you are already doing, but have your antennas high. It's not doing good legal work is not just knowing the legal issues, but I would always look around what's happening in the company, in the industry, in the world, and try to learn other non-legal issues as well. Like finance is also very important. Understanding, I think, legal issues as well. So whenever you can find time, have your antennas high and learn other things. And another thing that I try to do is to enjoy the work. If you enjoy, that's perfect. So
Oh, so much. Yes. You're so right. Those are so much good tips as careers for young lawyers as well, if they're thinking about things as well as being in-house legal counsel. Thank you so much for those.
thank you.
Well, let's finish up the podcast on what we call a lighter note. So just some
Yep.
quick fire, curious questions to wind down. So one of them is your favorite Japanese food. I know you're Japanese, but what is your favorite Japanese food?
I really love sweets.
Ah, I
So
see.
I love the Japanese roll cake. Do you know?
Oh, yes, I do.
It's
Yeah.
I couldn't find it in the US or UK or elsewhere. I always longed for the Japanese cakes.
So actually, it's interesting because in New Zealand and probably in Australia, we have a kind of roll cake. So it's a long
Mm,
sponge and you cover it with jam and with cream and then roll it up. And that
yes,
could be a chocolate sponge or a vanilla plain sponge. So we
right,
do have that, but it's not quite the same as a Japanese rollu keiki, right?
right. Roll cake.
A
Yeah,
little
I don't know
different.
how to describe the difference, but Yeah, the sponges and the cream, it's not too sweet.
And it looks pretty, right? It also looks
Yes,
very
yes,
attractive to
yeah,
you want to buy it.
yes. It
Yeah.
looks very simple, but
Well, I did
very
have one
good.
recently. It was caramel on the outside and it was
Ah,
pear, Yornashi,
oh,
Western pear
wow.
inside. It was really delicious. So, yeah. Okay, so what's a place in Japan that you really recommend that people go to when they come to Japan? So maybe you recommend to your colleagues from overseas when they come here.
I recommend Yamaguchi. That's my in-laws, where my in-laws live. I visit there twice a year, but I heard that Yamaguchi is the least popular place for visitors. I wonder why they
Really?
have yes,
Hmm.
good food, scenic views, and people are really nice and the best onsen. But it seems people will just pass through between Hiroshima and Fukuoka.
Oh, really?
Yes, but
I'm pretty sure I've been there, and
you
I
are
have been there. Yes, I have. And I know we
okay.
stayed at a nice ryokan, quite a big one, and it
Mm,
was onsen, hot
mm.
springs, and was really lovely. So I don't have that impression, but that's great. It's given me an idea to think about going back there. And what about your favorite saying in either English or Japanese, kotowaza, or the motto that you might have?
I might have mentioned a similar thing today already, but in the President Kennedy's inaugural speech, he told the people to not ask what your country do for you, but what you can do for your country. I love that phrase.
And actually, one of our previous podcast guests mentioned that one as well. What you
Oh,
can do,
really?
yeah, what you can do for others, and not what is being done for you. So
Mm,
I love that that's come through again. If you weren't a lawyer, what would you be doing?
I would want to have my small shop. I've
Oh,
been speaking with my daughter and my also my sister one day to have a small shop that has small beautiful things from the world. That might be the one I might be
that's
doing.
good because that's your excuse to go and do the buying overseas and bring
Right,
back to the
right.
shop.
That's right. Yes.
Oh. And if you could have an opportunity to spend a day with someone,
Hmm.
anybody, who would that be? And why?
Um,
Any person at all.
it might be my father. He's not here
Mm,
anymore. I regret that I didn't tell him how much I'm appreciative of him. It might be the Japanese things, but
mm,
I would think that people would know without me telling exactly what I tell. So in your gestures, yeah, how you spend your days, I expect them to know how
yeah.
I appreciate. But I think it's very important that I speak it.
So
The,
maybe that helps you now with the way that you do show your appreciation by conveying that. Perhaps that's
mm,
impacted you, but I'm sure your father knew by the way that you acted and spent time with him and did all things like that. That would definitely be showing it without actually having to say things. We
mm,
convey often by our actions rather than words, don't we?
yeah, yeah, but words are sometimes very important.
Really important. Yeah.
Yes, I learned.
All right. And the last question is what about something about you that a lot of people don't know? Perhaps opening the shop is one thing, but is there something else about you that maybe some people don't know?
Uh, yes, I've seen as by people that I'm quite a calm, quiet type of person, but I love zombie movies and
Oh, no.
dinosaur movies and like mega mighty creatures movie.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I would never have known that. If there was a list of 10 things, what does Sawako like to do and watch and interested in, I would never have guessed that. That's so funny. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
people really close to me no.
Now some more people will know. Well, thank you so much, Sawako, for coming on today and being really bold and being so open and vulnerable with some of the things that you have said today that I wasn't expecting, but you were so availing of yourself to be able to tell people some of the things that you've done and hope that they can learn from you and the experiences you've had. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Catherine, for putting the words in a nice and right ways for
Oh,
me.
no, not at all. Thank you so much. And so, if people want to get in touch with you, can they do that maybe through LinkedIn or what would you
Yes,
like? Yeah, is
yes,
that okay?
yes, LinkedIn. However, my name in LinkedIn is a little bit different to what is
Mm.
shown. For the business name, it's OGI. So, but yes, I have the account. So
Yeah, right.
that's
So OGI, will pop that in there and we will be sharing the podcast with you and everybody else as OHGI as your name, but we will get that right. So no problem. So if you've listened to this, for people who are listening, please do tell us about what you liked, your biggest takeaway. Leave us a review. You can also go ahead and share this episode with someone you think will enjoy listening and get inspired by what Sawako-san has said to lead this lawyer extraordinary life. Thank you, everybody. That's all for today. See you on the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now. Thank you so much for listening today to this episode of Lawyer on Air. I really hope that you were inspired by the story you heard and that you discovered something new about women in the law. Please subscribe to the show so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you can think of even just one person to share this episode with, that would make my day. I invite you to connect with me to talk more. Jump on over to LinkedIn or Instagram where you can find me, or send me a message via my website contact page. That's all from me today. I look forward to seeing you right here on the next episode of Lawyer on Air. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.